Hello, Ryan.
Hello, Rachel.
How are you?
Oh, by hook or by crook, I have made it to this point, so I am feeling triumphant. I'm feeling victorious. I'm Time Lord victorious.
I'm delighted for you.
I am delighted for me as well. But how about yourself?
All right.
Come on. This is the last occasion to let us know how you feel about a season 4 episode in particular.
Yeah, okay, there you go. You added the quantifier slowly.
I did it at the snail's pace of the season.
Yeah, I feel battered.
Bruised?
A little, but I bruise fairly easily, so that doesn't feel that weird. But I have a few more scrapes than I usually do by the time that we get to this point in the season for the Expanse. I'm bloody bruised and battered when we get to the end of the season of a Discovery.
Oh. Don't even
so traumatized I couldn't even say that sentence correctly.
Don't even say its name in the room that we're in, because yes, we are a husband and wife team that host a podcast that discusses TV. We go over episodes of television shows one at a time. Science fiction is where we live. We started out with Star Trek Discovery, and now we are doing The Expanse. And this is a first-time watch for us. We have not seen The Expanse before. We have not read the books. We have not played the game. We haven't looked up any interviews or commentary tracks or any of the bonus stuff. I am unaware. Comic books, nothing. This is the material we are going through one bit at a time. Each episode is new. Each season is new to us when you are hearing this, unless you're listening to this on the main feed. If you are listening to this on the main feed, you're a bit behind because we release this on our Patreon first. Isn't that right, Rachel?
Yes.
And for those who support the podcast on the Patreon, you get these early, and you get to have access to our group Discord and engage with the community, have some fun, have some conversations, share some stuff around.
Hundreds of hours of content.
All of which, including this, explain the name of the pod.
And that, I thought you didn't want me to mention its name.
Please, we need it mentioned. We need the moment discussed.
Okay, so Star Trek Discovery was a show that aired.
Yeah.
By technicality, because it was it weird kind of merge, but because it's not for streaming.
Well, kind of,
but it's not
really
for streaming.
It's a show.
It's a show.
Was a show
by well, yeah, because it's finished.
R.I.P. to a real stinker. But you were saying it's from Discovery. This moment.
Yeah. Individual is offered the opportunity to go and kill an antagonist. And their reply, rather nonsensically, including the fact that it said sexily, is yum yum. And Ryan decided that's it. He was we'd been debating starting a podcast, and after that moment, he was like, that's it. That's what it's going to be called. My lovely future wife. That's it.
Now you're my current wife, and do not be a Thomas. Do not deny the truth of the matter. You were on board for the name because Yum Yum was a sequence of events.
I knew better than to argue with you. That's different than being on board.
Stop being combative here. You're being a little liar. She's giving me the fingers because she knows she's being apprehended right now. We are about to put Rachel out of an airlock for her sins. But you were on board because
you would never be. You're not a belter. Don't pretend.
But you will sing. 3, 2, 1. Come on, play along. Or you let me tell the story about
Macarena.
Oh, okay, Rachel. The ancient belter tune. I want to hear.
I wouldn't be a belter.
I want to hear Ashford talk about the Macarena and wonder what it's about. In the same way, Londo.
No. He actually explains how it's actually the story of
his people.
No. Like, isn't it like the Macarena is cheating on him?
You've got me.
Do you not know about have you?
I've never studied the deep lore of the Macarena and what it's about. All I know is it's annoying. Unlike Yum Yum, which was a fantastic moment, we all loved it. And as Rachel gets up her phone to look up the history of Macarena, how about I tell us all what episode of The Expanse we watched for the first time? It is the season 4 finale, and the name of the book that this whole season was an adaptation of. What was it? Cibola Burn?
Yeah.
Cibola Burn. I always want to say Burns because it sounds better, but Burn. It's just one Burn. One Burn Gorman.
When you have a face as scary as Burn Gorman, it only makes sense to be named Burn Gorman.
Ashford closes in on an enemy while uncovering a dangerous plot. Avasarala faces a crossroads in her personal and political life. The Rossi crew works to re-establish life on Ilus in the wake of a deadly catastrophe. All of those are very much present within the episode, as was something we found particularly yum, because that moment from Discovery was not just a piece of absurd comedic brilliance, but also it was horny. It made you pull at your collar and steam come out. And what in this episode had that? Was this a season in which we got a money shot at the end of Sexy? And yeah, thank you.
At Sexy?
A money shot at the end of Sexy? No, it wasn't.
No.
It was calm, it was level,
Mm-hmm.
It was restrictive in its horniness. Not a lot of shirts were popping off in this one. Burn Gorman, he was the one whose shirt we saw off.
Apparently, the Macarena seems to be getting some.
That's Rachel's choice for the Yum Yum. As you just heard, she brilliantly segued that in. As I just said, sexiness. Yes, some say the Macarena. And then she literally fanned her face. So
shut up. Macarena lyrics. Give your body joy, Macarena. That your body is to give you joy and good thing.
Sing it.
Give your body joy, Macarena. Hey, Macarena. Give your body joy, Macarena.
Do you think it's about wanking?
Macarena has a boyfriend.
Okay.
Named Vitrioli's last name. That's the boy that the boy swears in the flag swear. I don't think this is a very good translation.
I'm not an expert on the Macarena.
He gave it to two friends.
Yeah,
Macarena's has boyfriend's name. That is called Vitrione surname.
You can never complain ever again about tangents I go on and that I bring up the Yum Yum. Never again. Because if you do, I'll play this back at you.
And in this jury, the boy gave it him with two friends.
If only Ashford had that as lines of dialogue. I did not.
And then there's stuff about an English court. Macarena.
I literally don't know if you're done. Are you done? Look, I don't give a fuck anymore about it. Yeah, I don't give a fuck about the Expanse sexiness because season 4 was a fucking whiff.
It was.
We got Amos fucking. We'll save this for the recap. We'll save it for the recap. But here's what I'll say: this episode,
not a very sexy episode.
This episode was dry as fuck. I had one thing, and I'm gonna get it off my chest because you just had a fucking diatribe about the Macarena. So you can fucking wait a sec.
I wanted to share a fun
I don't even know what you shared. All you told me was boys give it to each other real good. I'm like, okay, I guess it's about fucking gay boys giving wankies. I don't know. Good for them. I wish they were in the episode so that we could have sexiness here. The best I can give you is that Christian was in a very nice little negligee, and she was strutting around in that, and it was very form-fitting and nice, and that's it. We don't get to see her in that type of outfit. Usually her outfits are sexy in how elegant they are and how decorated they are and elaborate and layered. Like, I think of her wearing the big cape, walking around in the snow where she's like got layers upon layers, but this is one where it's so minimal of layers that it actually does the reverse effect for her, where usually the more decadent she is, the sexier, but this is the more simple she is, and she still wore a cape. On this. So,
she's refined, unlike Macarena, who cheats on her boyfriend with two
Is it
friends.
her now? Oh,
yeah.
I thought it was I should have listened to those lyrics.
He gets drafted into the army, and so she fucks two of his friends, and then tries to leave for New York, is what this HuffPost article is telling me. I've totally forgotten what this is, because this episode did not leave a much of an impression on me. But the note that I have is apparently Amos said thank you for that, and that was my yum yum moment.
Amazing. Maybe if we didn't spend so much time on the Macarena, you would remember what that was in context of.
I do.
But we know that's only for kings, and we must move on now because we burned through so much pod on the Macarena. We only have 5 minutes left. This is why you should come to the Patreon, because you get these early. You get the uncut version where it's 4 hours of Rachel explaining in vivid detail, whilst also haphazardly Googling it on her phone. Because I love you.
No, it's because that was a shit bit that I did.
No, it wasn't. It was fantastic. Let's keep it all in. Nothing's been cut in this episode. It's all kept in. We'll do a 4-hour cut.
Don't even put this in.
No, it's staying all in because you're saying you don't want it in, and you're making it hard for transitions.
This episode was pretty solid. Like, it wasn't great. It didn't make me excited for next season, but it did the job.
Anything else?
No, those are my overall thoughts. What are yours?
I am very mixed on it overall. I enjoyed it enough when I was watching it. There's the satisfaction of seeing the story elements come to a head. There's satisfaction in seeing them converge in certain ways to connect the dots. The exhilaration of where we could go from here all is there when I was watching it. But as an actual episode and stepping away from it now, I'm very much in a similar boat to you, in which it's not leaving the strongest impression on me. There's many bits and many things that we will flesh out in our conversation that are here, and maybe I'll grow a finer appreciation for. I mean, that happened with our last episode discussion, like actually talking about that one and listening back in the edit. I was like, I actually kind of like that one a lot more through this means. But I think the best thing I can give this particular one is it reached endpoints rather than me saying they're satisfying.
No more setups.
No, I wouldn't say that. There's going to be so more. But here's the ultimate summary. Okay, here's the ultimate summary of it. Setups. Bobby, at the end of the season, phoned up Christian and said, I heard Ryan bitch about how I didn't want to engage in a fun plot straight away, so I finally figured out I should. And that's how it feels to me very much.
Just like, well,
bad timing.
Bad timing.
But that's how I look at a lot of this is they get to the points where you want them to go, or you expect them to go, or just they are good ones to get to. But
the
you're
journey?
But you're looking at your watch going, well, I'm glad you finally got around to this. Like, I've been defending certain things of the season, and now I'm here at the end, and I'm really like, did we need 10 whole episodes to get to this? I really feel like maybe 6 could have done the job, and then other things, they are crammed. It's an odd duck, and this episode is very lethargic in its pacing and in its atmosphere.
The story would be about how a group of desperate Delta refugees and the Earth scientists overcome their prejudices to stand together against disaster and an alien world. And they made a fortune.
A lot of the conversation today will be about this is how they concluded the story, and it works. It's good. It makes sense. It lines up. You could argue it's satisfying. But at the same time, the stuff that led to all of this doesn't give it that extra oomph factor. I'm not as excited by it. So the big thing that's hilarious is Christian loses.
Finally.
Loses, and it's because of her own damn fault. Not because of leaking the information here or any of the political wheelings and dealings she was going through in the season to undermine her opposition and to strengthen herself, but because of her main campaign reason, which is precaution. She sent James Holden and the gang out there because she wanted to make sure things were safe and to counteract any alien entities that could hurt Earth. And in so doing, she ruined herself because it worked out. And James Holden saved the day, and it showed that humanity is strong and we can survive adversity if we work together. And she created a narrative that her opposition was arguing for throughout the entire season. And that there sounds excellent. Like, when I say it out loud, I'm like, that sounds really great and like poignant and ironic.
The idea is fine. The idea is fine. The execution is not.
The illest plot being the thing that affects majorly Christian, even though she is not physically in the same area, is and wonderful.
She keeps on complaining throughout the season that Holden's not checking in. She doesn't know what's going on. And then getting his report is what seals her fate as she's going to lose the election.
The narrative changed, and she was the one that changed it in the long run. It wasn't Gao. It wasn't even Holden. Holden did exactly what he was ordered to do by Christian. What about this was successful, or as an endgame point, do you think ties in well?
Well, it's what her husband has been warning her about. He keeps on telling her these messages and these themes, and that feels authentic to the character that she's making those choices that she is. And we've known since the election was announced pretty much that she was going to lose.
I agree. I think a huge factor to why this does have something that works is she made a choice in this, and her own choice sealed her fate. So she made the action to send Holden and the Rossi crew there to do what they did. Things went sideways, of course, out of her control, but the through line of Holden getting rid of the proton molecule and saving the colony and making sure everyone's okay, and making sure that cool heads, rise to the top of this and lack of bloodshed, that was her decision. She had agency in that. And although throughout the season she hasn't had it in terms of the lack of communication and she can't order Holden to do things the way she would do them, I think it works because she actually was a participant in this a lot more than things happened to her and she had to make a decision with very limited resources available to her. And then it being the thing that undoes her ego trip campaign to keep being in charge rings really well, because again, she was the reason that she lost, rather than the grander things outside of her, which has been our complaint throughout the season.
And I really enjoyed the moment of reflection. We got a really great speech from her. She records a message to send to Gal. And she says, I think I'm right, but I hope you are. And it's just like, yeah, that tracks for like her arc this season. Like, and her as a character. She's accepting that she's lost and that it will be better for the galaxy and humanity,
the universe even,
if she is wrong. But she still believes what she believes, and she's not going to say that she doesn't.
Because she hasn't been proven wrong completely, because the way she was proven wrong was through her believing she was right. Her beliefs were the things that made things happen the way they did. So she has not been proven wrong wholeheartedly, hence she can still hold on to this, I believe you're the one in the wrong, but I hope I am the one. A thing that is in that speech, and even before she has a conversation with the husband, is she has lost her life because of not the job, but because of the ambition and the desire for power.
And it was really great the way that, like, she phrased it as something like having a life to go back to once you're done. Because she's neglected that because all she was caring about was the job.
And what has it cost her? What happened? She not only doesn't get to continue to be...
A grandson who's been written out of the show.
Yeah, is he... Well, do they remember him? He was, like, pivotal to the first season or two for her character.
And they haven't referred to him in quite some time.
Have they even mentioned him in the season as existing?
I don't think so.
Outside of a photo, perhaps, but, like...
They've talked about her son, but not her grandson.
Yeah, very strange. Very odd.
Did he die on Luna?
No, that can't be. They would have mentioned it. But the husband leaves her. He's not going to stay. He's going to go away. No, she's going to go away and he's not going to come with her. They need time apart. Because
he's no longer her partner.
He no longer is
They're
in
not
her
saying,
corner.
I'm getting divorced. I'm leaving you. It's not that simple. It's not that straightforward.
But their relationship is broken.
Yes.
And she was the one that broke it. And I would really love to say that speech she gave and that the deterioration of the marriage was even good in this episode. But I didn't find it that great, honestly.
I wanted to. Like, I did genuinely enjoy that speech. But compared to what we've got in the past, it did not hit home the way that I know that this show can.
I have said it throughout this discussion and in our previous episodes. One of my major reasons for disliking the Christian plot is the writing puts upon her failures that are outside of her own control and are designed to make her fail. So even if she does the quote-unquote right thing, she will fail and it will make her a loser. It will make her bad. And it just pushes her to become more desperate and more frantic. And that can work. You can make that work. But they did it so many times during the season. None of her failures or faults until the very last episode, like not this episode, but the last one we watched, the previous episode, a lot of her failures and faults came from exterior forces rather than herself. The last one she was in, we get that, right? Where she leaked the information and she's going mask off and I've got to make everyone afraid and I've got to scare the shit out of them. Like when we had that discussion, and she used her son's death as a political move. That's her making choices. I wish we had that throughout the entire season of her just transgressing more and more and more and becoming more ruthless. But the most we got was she leaked information about her opposition not attending school or whatever it was. And it's like, okay. And then that gets brushed away so quickly.
And then it ends up working in Gao's favor because
she did a gotcha.
Yeah.
She's like, well, I help those others. But this sentiment of Christian has lost the things that she held dear on a personal level, her life, because of her ambition and desire for power, for a job she never wanted, but once she was in it, could not remove herself from, is really, it just falls flat from what we saw in the rest of the season. In this episode, fine. You know, if you like the story and it gels well, then this is a great thing to have, but it hasn't gelled well with me, and we get this, and it makes me angry because I would have loved to have seen and felt and experienced a story.
I want this to be worth it.
Yeah, I want it to be worth it, and I want to have experienced a story that this is the ending of, rather than Christian just having a bunch of bullshit thrown at her from not just the universe itself, but from the writing to make her lose, to get her to this dramatic low point. That's all it feels is like they had to get her to this dramatic low point. By hook or by crook, we're going to get there.
You're angry with me?
No. I just feel that,
Come with me. Please?
Well, how about you tell us about a plot that you've always loved, your favorite, one that you and I never argue about, Bobby, on Mars.
Yeah. I do appreciate the simplicity of the note that you have for this first part, which is Bobby and Blondie bond before the end.
That is the thing. That happens.
Yeah, they seem to, they agree that this job stinks and that it's dangerous, and Bobby has officially walked away. You were sure of that last episode, and I was just like, I don't know.
But she's still trying to get them out of it.
Yes.
She's still stalking them and messaging them and
I feel like
hounding them and
your
spying on.
Prediction was right that she walks away, but she comes in the last second because she
can't help herself.
She can't help, or she's found some information that you know, confirms her theory.
They bond, though, these two.
Yeah, they bond. And, you know, I don't give a shit.
I gave so much of a shit, actually.
Oh.
Because
why?
Okay, so I thought the scene in the bar and you get to hear.
I thought it was well done. It was well done. But it wasn't like I was like, oh, that's a nice ending, or oh, I wonder what's going to happen next. I'm like, this is the logical move.
Yes, of course.
Right on time. Right on time. Very convenient. And let's keep moving forward, people.
Well, obviously, you still have more to say about why this stuff doesn't work for you. So get that off your chest, because that's the thing. I've loved the Bobby plot in part because we haven't been able to agree on it. You have your stance on it, and I'm much more open and welcoming of it because of various reasons, and you have your opposition to it for various reasons as well.
It's just convenient. It's just, oh, yep, okay, that's what happens now. And I was just like, oh, you're just going to try and make me sad when she dies. But
neither of these two died.
No, they survive.
Interesting.
But the boss dies.
But we had our farewell with him in one of the last conversations.
A power vacuum.
Well, I mean, not much. I mean, there's a bigger power vacuum at play with what happened on Mars. But okay, with Bobby and what we've nicknamed Blondie. I know she has a name. It's like Lily or something. But Blondie.
It's just like, oh, you're not too bad. You spitefully fucked my nephew, but
wait.
But we're on good terms.
Yes. I forgot about that actually. But okay. So I did like this scene a lot. I like the banter that they have. I think the dialogue's really good. But one of the things that really shone out brightly, in my perspective, is that the actress who plays Blondie really got to chew into some great stuff in this episode. I thought she was fun and just really vibrant, and like I would have liked
she
her.
Had a lot more depth than she's been given.
I thought the actress had a certain sparkle and just grit as well. I found the groove, and I thought the two characters as well as the performers just really clicked into place. The rhythm at which they were talking, and that's in part helped because they've had their little jabs back and forth throughout the season. Their little jabs back and forth throughout the season. I was a little sad
when they were like, and now Blondie waves goodbye.
Yeah, and of course, and I found a bit of sadness too that it took them to the very end in which the gang is going to die for Blondie and Bobby to be on the same page, and that if they weren't at such a high point of being adversaries at the beginning, they probably would have gotten on really well. Like, that's the thing. I love that type of thing where, once we put down our bullshit, we realize we probably would have gotten on fairly well, but they're still different people. They're not doing you and I are the same. They're both saying, you and I both realize there's something wrong here.
Yeah, and our responses to that are quite different, even if we can acknowledge, like, we have shared ground in this other area, but we're reaching very different conclusions.
And both of them as characters on very separate journeys of being able to realize following blindly and loyalty.
Yes.
Because we've seen Bobby for multiple seasons be able to separate from that, while Blondie, she still is like, she's aware of all of this, but she's still going to blindly follow in because what else can she do?
Well, to me, it is a reflection, primarily of their difference in values. Blondie believes in basically the American dream.
The Martian dream.
I
know. She's a capitalist.
Bobby believes in the Martian dream.
But not anymore.
But she still kind of does, because she wants to fight for the old Mars. She's not willing to watch Mars crumble.
But she's had that fight back and forth throughout the season, which has been what I find interesting. That dynamic of the loyal Martian Marine who sees that the system was a facade the entire time, but she can't let it go. She can't.
I saw that as well. I just didn't engage with it because I could see the end point so clearly, and there was all of this stuff that I was in the way to me. It wasn't part of the journey. It was just obstacles that they put up so that it would take Bobby till the end of the season to call up Christian to try and save Mars from itself.
What I don't care about with the Bobby story is it's the same story, just shuffled in a different order, and maybe they've given it a shiny new hat.
Yeah.
I can't get past that every Bobby story in this show is Bobby is loyal to Mars or some organization.
And a complication comes up in terms of that loyalty.
Yeah, and she realizes that it's all bullshit and there's some big grand conspiracy at large, and she has to team up with Christian to save the day.
There's the grey in the world. It's not black and white. Oh my god.
Okay, we've had 3 seasons in a row now, season 2, 3, and 4, in which Bobby's story is she becomes disillusioned. Okay. What else?
Let's go.
What else?
Let's go. Let's see something new.
I want to
please.
see her take affirmative action in her
At
life
least-
rather than halfway through a season she realizes she should, she does it, and then she rinses and repeats. Now this one they've organized in a different way in which it's reflective on the societal whole, and this pays off because we've had seasons of build up to Mars falling apart in this way, and so we have the boots on the ground perspective of somebody who was loyal to it now realizing that they were loyal to an empire of dirt, basically, of nothing. They've got nothing to show for it. It was all a thing that was bullshit, and the reveal that the trap that's been laid for the gang is a high up military Martian conspiracy who then just further adds to the idea that Mars is truly dead because even the higher-ups who should be the most loyal to the dream are picking at the bones of Mars and selling it off to the people they used to fight against. And they're willing to kill their own Martians, even loyal ones or not, to do this. And it's like, great, that's interesting. But the thing is, we've seen Bobby become disillusioned, uncover a conspiracy, and have to team up with our heroes to save the day and maybe get a gritty action scene in the last episode or two of the season where she gets out by the skin of her teeth. It's the same shit. It's the same shit. And that's why I don't like it as much as I could, because if maybe this was what she did after season 2, if we didn't have season 3 where she just did a compressed version, like a speedrun version of her season 2 arc, maybe this wouldn't bug me as much. But man, isn't it tiring? Like, do you believe, honestly, that Bobby will go through a different story in the rest of the show? Because we're nearly over with the show. We've got 2 seasons left and they're short.
I don't hold out hope. I don't really hold out hope at this point. I don't know. I guess sort of by definition, next season has to be different because she's walking in knowing that there is a conspiracy and that she's going to fight against the system and try and uncover the truth. Whereas every other time it's been her trying to be complacent and then failing because she realizes there's a conspiracy and then tries to fight against it and is crushed by the system.
See, all I see is we're going to watch Bobby and Christian slowly but surely uncover the Marco plot, and then it'll be too late.
Yeah.
Because it's always too late. Bad timing as usual. But we haven't even said, so the conspiracy was that the Martians were shipping out to Marco, clearly, the OPA, not weapons per se, but the stealth technology, which is fascinating. And once we talk about Marco, we can really dive into how he is utilizing it for a very specific means. But I don't mind that as an idea of like, oh, Bobby has been supplying the OPA with the supplies they needed to do heinous things. Yes, it's what we knew already, but now she's rejecting it, and she has to team up with Christian to stop it. And that's her season 5 pitch. Like, that's the pitch of her in season 5.
Yep.
Is her phoning up Christian and saying, I'm sorry I rejected what could have been a fun plot for a season.
I had to do this buffer thing instead.
I had to do this supplementary material that's been stapled on top of the season. Can we now do a fun story? Maybe. Cross my fingers, hoping and praying that it will happen. But like, as much as I enjoy the Bobby stuff, and I'm happy that you and I have had disagreements about it along the way, we still meet at the same point, which is, it's just too familiar.
There's something rotten on Mars, within the military, some kind of weapons trafficking with belters. I don't know how high up or what it's for, not yet, but it feels dangerous. Assuming your offer to work together is still open, I accept. I think we need each other.
So the next thing that we have down to talk about is what it felt like when the Doc rock fell through the ring.
You keep calling it a ring. I call it an orb.
Yeah, you call it an orb.
The weird energy matter. The
weird energy
force
matter.
fieldy thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
And how Holden connects with her with how, like, what that felt like and how that's what he feels
When he goes through the rings.
every time he passes through.
And what is it that they feel? What is the thing that is described?
Can I tell you what first popped into my head, and then I'll genuinely try and give an explanation?
Okay, so what popped into your head first was, hey, Macarena. Oh, I got her. I set her up. Knocked her out of the park with this one. This is a great episode, by the way. We're wanting to focus on anything else. Here's the thing: it's not even a bad finale. It's not successful.
It's just been not a good season. So even an okay finale just is. Anyway, nowhere space.
Okay.
That's what first popped in my head when she was giving this explanation, right? Which is a reference to the show Hilda.
Oh. Yes. I was thinking of hyperspace in B5 as well, where you have like all that concept of like space between space that you can travel through. And
so in Hilda, there are these creatures that live in nowhere space, and nowhere space is accessible via like certain places, usually in people's houses, that kind of like stuff disappears to. It's like the in-between space that just seems to kind of go on and on.
Mm-hmm.
And
another dimension.
Yeah. And she describes it as like sort of being in touch with the emptiness between things. And
LV does.
Yeah.
But she also describes that it's like there's something in it.
Yes.
There's something happening. There's some sinister force or movement.
Like the Nissa living in nowhere space.
I keep thinking of Babylon 5 or even Star Trek Picard, where there's like this pitch of like...
Are you thinking of third space?
I'm thinking of third space in B5, where it's like, oh, we have this other dimension and it's the space between spaces, but there's something in there that's sinister.
It's a very familiar concept. It's something that's been explored in a lot of sci-fi media because it is an interesting concept and a very familiar fear to tap into, but with using a sci-fi concept.
And it's always fun to say interdimensional beings or interdimensional hijinks or troubles. And so that was what popped into your head.
Yes. And then we went over what actually happened.
I don't mind this too much.
No,
but
I like that Holden's not alone in this, and that like the way that I read his performance in that scene was like he didn't ask to have somebody to connect to with this. He didn't want somebody else to be burdened with this feeling or this fear.
But it's something they can share together.
But he's excited to not be alone in it.
He's not crazy.
Yeah.
Because he hasn't discussed that with people.
And Elfie is just like, I would rather be crazy. And it's not the first time that Holden's had somebody say that to him.
She was all about being able to be in his shoes because she wanted to know anything about alien life. Now she's been in his shoes for 1 second and she's rejecting of it and saying, I'm fine.
Fuck.
I'm fine, buddy.
Oh, God, I don't want this.
I'm okay. I don't need it. A thing that I find worrisome is the thing that I find worrisome is that we are just replacing one alien super weapon technology or
with
technological
another.
thing with just another. We're changing from blue to red.
Yeah.
Blue
Just
to orange.
A changing color scheme.
But it's going to be the same old shit of like, here's some leftover alien gobbledygook and it's just going to splooge all over us and we won't understand it and it will destroy us. And hopefully we don't fall into the same mistakes of generations past.
It's a threat no human can understand.
But it's a threat that we also do understand on a deep primal level, because it's the thing in which you don't learn from history, you're bound to repeat it, and violence, feeds into violence, and on and on and on it goes. Look, we can have theories. My theory is like this stuff.
Sci-Fi theme number 61, I think it is.
Yeah. It's the idea in my mind of this is what destroyed them, and it came about because of their own technology. Like in something like B5 or whatever, you have aliens who cracked open a certain dimension because they reached that high echelon and thought they were godlike, and then the universe, nature, God itself or whatever struck back in a way that they couldn't be prepared for. And so, Illus or the proto-molecule or whatever is this thing in which we, the aliens, the builders, ripped open space in a way that fucked him right back.
You know what I care about so much more? Holden talking to Naomi, lamenting his last words to Miller. Being like, oh, so lame.
I wish I didn't say the rain thing. I wish I'd said farewell, brother. Like a biker.
Yeah.
Or as we call them in Australia, bikies. Because we're cool. Okay? Our way's better. If you think your way's better, you're incorrect. Factually incorrect. And you know how I know that for a fact? Because I know a lot about the Macarena. So I've got a third eye open here on what's good and bad in the universe. I'm making fun of nothing. The Holden reflecting upon Miller stuff was very nice in this, because what I appreciate about a finale like this, and you see it many times over with modern television, is the penultimate episode or the one before that is where this shit hits the fan. And then the last episode itself is a calm, slow burn.
Resolution.
It's resolution.
It's not the climax.
It's very meditative. It's reflecting back, but also setting up. And it has just kind of a meandering to it. And so you're afforded conversations like this. Holden lost a friend. His friend saved them over and over again. And he's thinking, I wish I could have been better to him. I wish I could have appreciated him. I wish I could have said goodbye in a perfect way. But the thing is, there is no real way to say goodbye in a perfect way. Even his eulogy that he gave to, the essence of Miller, the remaining proto-molecule that was on the ship that they launch out, was nice, but you can tell it's not like that's going to be. It's never. It's enough, but not enough at the same time. Like it's an acknowledgement that Miller was a hero, which has been acknowledged before, but maybe not as overt as this. And as an ending to Miller, because this is what we have to work off of. We haven't seen anything further. We haven't read the books. I would imagine that this is the end of the character. Like, this is the button they're putting on this. Maybe they'll mention him from time to time, but really this is where we conclude on this character who we started with. What do you feel about Miller overall, and how we tie a bow on him in this, with Holden, the other main character, taking the time to pause and reflect?
I'm surprised by how satisfied I am with his second death. I don't think it doesn't hit as hard as the first one. Obviously.
No, I don't think it's supposed to in that way. It's not as grand.
It's a very different kind of conclusion to a character. But the fact that it is satisfying at all, and it feels like it wasn't a waste to bring him back, that's a hard thing to do.
We're charging through the doors anyway. If we have any chance at surviving what comes next, it'll be because of you.
Lucia feels as if she's not worthy, or she's not expecting to be able to walk away from what she's done. She committed an act that cost people their lives, and she's going to have to seek
guilt.
Yes, and she's going to have to seek the retribution of that, not just from the law, but from her own loved ones and family. She still feels as if they cannot accept her. and so she will not try because there is no point. And she's going to be jailed away, and there is no redemption for her. Holden makes it so that she gets to slip through the cracks, that, oh, maybe she died along the way and we couldn't get her, because they recognize that the system, if she was put through it, would not benefit her. This isn't a case for a character in which incarceration would be satisfying for the viewer either. And so they find a way around that. But this isn't just left to Lucia. She's not just a character that gets to have this little journey throughout the season on her own. We have to tie it to one of the mains. And Alex has been very much a key figure of this story. We winced and groaned and moaned and bitched about how it started out with him flirting with her, and maybe he wanted to get into her pants, and then he found out she was a part of a family and that she had the life that he no longer had, and that made him insecure.
He walked away from.
That's it. And we talked about that, and then that's actually been the thing the show's been focusing in on, that he sees that she had the thing he let go of. And he's trying to not just give her advice, but warn her and kind of use himself as an example of what not to become. And it all kind of gets, again, put into a nice little package in this episode. I actually found this pretty satisfying. I think Alex has been very consistent during the season. I think his writing has been very good. He's been given great conversations. They've all flowed well. And I actually really liked his goodbye to Lucia and reminding her not to give up, because he did, and look what's become of him. What are your takes on this and how it comes together in the episode?
It was a very good use of Alex as a character, but that's the level that I engage with it on, is the practicalities of it. I'm also like, oh, replacement child. Yay for them.
Oh, little orphan Annie.
Yeah.
They adopted little orphan Annie, and they're going to put it in the daughter's bed. Put them in the daughter's bed where she used to sleep, and they'll start, teaching
all of
them
that
how to be a mechanic.
Destroyed from the flooding, Ryan.
Well, they will build a new place. Clearly, the bed survived, though. I understand that was a bit dorky. The orphan stuff is fucking awful.
That was just it was too much for me. It was too much. Too much.
You understand what they're doing with Alex. And I feel like the reason it lands better for me is not only consistency, growth through the character that we've had in the seasons, but I did find it emotionally touching. I had little twinges of emotion about it because we've felt so strongly about Alex, what a piece of shit he is, how selfish he is, what an awful person. And to see him be able to open up about that, not to others, but to himself, is the type of growth you want, because
we got annoyed that he wasn't being honest with himself in the first 2 seasons in particular. And now he is being honest with himself and honest with others.
It's about seeing him follow through on that. It's great to admit your failures and admit your faults, but how are you going to improve? He knows how to give the advice to other people. Mm-hmm. Now we have to see him give it to himself, to actually do the advice himself. These things he said to Lucia were great, but can he put his own money where his mouth is? We have to wait and see. And how will that come to be? I'm excited to see it because I feel outside of season 2, Alex has been a consistently well-realized and written character. He doesn't get utilized as much as others. Even here, this was always a background element. You would have scenes dedicated to the conversation, but even then they were actually dedicated to the techno-babble that would save the day of the plot.
Yeah. Looking at the next item on the agenda, I just remembered where that Amos quote was from. Because Amos attacks. No, that's wrong.
He defends himself.
He invites Bertree to attack him, basically. He's like, are you fully healed? It's like, why do you care? Well, I want to fight you if you're still gimpy. I'm pretty sure he uses the word
Mertree is a little scamp in this episode.
But when Mertree hits Amos, Amos is like, thank you for that, because that gives him the justification.
And he's smiling with all the blood in his mouth.
To hit Mertree, and it's great. It's very
and we don't even see it.
No, it just cuts away because it doesn't matter, and it also leaves a little bit of suspense for did Amos kill him?
Because the big conflict for Amos is, do not kill this man. It's important to me. He's ordered
by Holden.
Do not kill him, even if you want to, because he made, if it wasn't for Mertree, Amos wouldn't have to have killed Way, which is what makes Mertree punch Amos in the face, because Mertree is affronted by Amos, but that Amos, in Mertree's eyes, was the inhumane beast, which we didn't talk about that much in the previous episode when Mertree's all Mr. You have to be amoral and bloodthirsty to get your way, and you have to go through people for civilization. It was very humorous that just a moment ago he was like, Wade tried to appeal to his humanity and he shot her. What a beast. And it's like, you like that though. You like that shit. So I find that an interesting conflict within Mertree, because he punches Amos for bringing her up in a way where it's like, you made me kill her. That's pity because I liked her.
It's like,
punch.
It's like, I didn't make you do shit.
Mertree is a little scamp in this. He's just giving side eyes and looks and wincing in pain and making little snarky comments, and he doesn't like the idea of going to jail.
Oh no, he wants a way out of it, and he would have a plan. He would have a plan. I don't think he just took the bait. I think he was waiting for Amos to come.
I agree, because you see he's sitting waiting. He's waiting for the moment to occur.
Burn is giving that energy in his performance, just straight up.
And him and Amos are being healed together. We see Amos's fingers growing back because of the regrowth gel, because they can regrow limbs in the future. That was set up in the first episode of the series, when the dude lost his hand and we saw it floating around in space, and he was going to get a robot hand because he can't afford that regrowth stuff. I don't care about Mertree now that we're here.
Whatever. Something will happen.
It was a funny moment for him to get his ass beat off screen.
It was like, oh, you scamp.
I get they have to have him in the episode because of how narratives work, but the last one was the conclusion. Mm-hmm. Holden looking over him and saying, this is civilization, is where I would have ended it. But of course you have to tidy up stuff and make sure he's on the ship and he's going to be arrested, and they're healing him and making sure he lives. And
next step.
It just it's more of a necessity than actually satisfying.
Yeah.
Do you care about anything with Mertree in the episode other than Amos has a bit of fun? Amos has fun.
But I also don't care that they're going to rebuild the colony. And that I feel like is a bigger deal. Like, the belters have won. The lithium is going to get sent away.
They're going to be some of the richest people in the system.
Yeah, and they're going to work together now because the evil Mertree isn't there to corrupt the RCE.
He was the one bad apple. Oh, of course, some of his men were bad apples, but, figuratively, he was the bad apple.
But they've also been removed from the planet, so only the good people are there.
the Edward Israel's still around, I'm pretty sure, near there, but
Yeah.
only the good scientists are there to stay and help rebuild.
Elvie's friends on the planet now.
And Elvie's there too, and everything's going to be A-okay. This colony, I fucking bitched and cried and I was groaning in pain at the end of the last season when I predicted correctly that we're going to spend a whole season on a fucking colony with a bunch of whiny hippie whingers. And okay, they weren't hippies per se, but you know what I'm talking about.
I know what you mean. I know what you mean. You didn't like it when it was a couple of episodes in Battlestar.
I didn't like it in Star Trek.
Season.
I didn't like, and
it's not for you, and you know that.
And
you know that about yourself.
And we've talked about the reasons during the season, but now that we are done with it, we're done. We did the story. And you just said you didn't have much of a reaction or care about the colony gets to survive and thrive.
I was like, oh,
and the good guys prevail.
Have such it's just such a small win. It feels like,
but it is a devastatingly huge one for humanity at large, because now humanity will expand to the
evidence that
different galaxies. It's evidence it can work. And we will go to the different galaxies. We are now a galaxy-spanning race.
Yeah, Holden hasn't lied.
And that's good, as a narrative thing. I just don't care about the colony either.
I'm also well, what relevance are they going to have going forward other than being the success story?
I don't even have a worry about that, because when we were in ring space last season and all of our characters managed to, by the skin of their teeth, survive and get out of there, and then they've opened up a new universe, I was really involved with that because I cared about all of the characters. I cared about the stories. I liked Ashford as an antagonistic figure. I understood what he was about. I could see why he was doing the things he was doing. I liked Drummer. I liked Anna. I liked Melba. I liked Holden. I loved all of those people, new and old. So the crisis at the center of it and the cosmic horror, and then the fact that we lived because we banded together and we figured out a way of getting out through non-violence and we managed to survive, worked then, because it's not about wholeheartedly just we band together and we make it out. It's about the people we're following, the
friends we made along the way.
It is about the friends along the way, but with the colony, I could not tell you anything about Lucia's husband, honestly, other than he had one really good argument conversation, and then the rest of the time he's just kind of dicking about. And the leader of the colony, couldn't even tell you her name. I could just tell you that she's that person who talks to Holden a lot. And sometimes she's reasonable. But I couldn't tell you much about the colony at all. And the people there.
The leader woman.
Yeah, that's who I was just talking about.
Don't know her name, right?
It's not even about knowing names. Who was she as a character? What could you describe about her other than she was in charge of the colony?
No, but isn't that one of the most basic things that we can know about somebody is their name?
But also,
it's not the most important thing, especially for a character in a big ensemble like this season was. But it would be something that lasted.
Oh, yes.
If we knew.
But I could also say last season we had the UNN scientist who was always arguing with Anna. I didn't know his name, but I knew what his character was. I knew what he was about. I knew what he offered up to the story, and I cared.
It's not the only measure of success.
I think we're going to have to add exoarchaeologists to your resume.
I want to understand what really happened. The war between those two ancient species.
There's one thing geologists are good at doing, it's digging for answers. I'll watch your back.
Watch your back.
Speaking of an individual that I don't really give a shit about, but we are going to get more of, Philip.
How can you say you don't give a shit about Philip? You don't even know him. He could be a great character.
Yeah, but I don't care about I don't care about him at the moment. I'm not saying that I never will. I'm just saying that I do not care about Naomi's kid.
Well, tell us a bit more about what's going on with that and why you are not
he's on board
invested.
with Marco, and Naomi realizes that Marco's on the move. He's got a plan, and he will probably get Philip killed in the process. So she's calling in her favor with Fred to try and track down Philip and save him.
Find Marco, save Philip. Now.
It just screams
set up for season 5.
Yeah, and it's just going to take,
it's always some bullshit.
It's just
with
going
Naomi,
to take, it's going to take longer than it needs to. And also I have really high expectations of a story like this because of what they did with Prax and his kid.
And Naomi has been having to sit in the back seat while other people worry about their children and go through child drama while she suffers in silence. So we have to bring it to a head.
But she also shares that. She's sharing her history more with people.
But it's still suffering because she's unable to fix it in any way that within the series.
There's also he looks like he's at least 16, right?
If you put a gun against my head, I would say he's fucking 22 years old.
I know, he looks older than that.
Okay, can we ask this question? Okay, so the actress who plays her is 35, 36 right now. So this was a couple years back. So she's in her early 30s.
She had a kid at 16.
Okay.
I think that's what
this kid looks like 25 years old. He looks like a full-grown man. And you know what's disconcerting? He doesn't look that much older than Marco.
No, he doesn't. He doesn't.
How old is Naomi supposed to be in the show or the books? Does this line up? Is it a case of I understand they had a kid when they
Marco drug him and speed up his aging process?
No, he's a belter. He's really tall. Remember in the first season, they were all really tall.
They were.
And then they ran out of tall actors. No, it's a case of, yes, they had children. They had a child when they were extremely young. We know this for a fact. It was just one of those things in which I was expecting a 12-year-old.
Oh, I wasn't. I knew that they were going to make him at least 16, 17 and hire an older actor because they don't want to deal with somebody who's underage because they want him to be able to do violence as well.
You're leaving all of this for predictions, but here's my prediction. I'm putting money on the table now. Just going to slide this over here. Let's see if I get more money added to my winnings or if I lose it all by saying he is going to be the new version of your least favorite character. Old fucky McFuckface teenage dickhead boy. Diogo.
I know that's what I already don't like him because he reminds me of that fuckface.
And he's done nothing. He's just existed in one scene with a gun and he looks like a little boy. He has a young face, but he's clearly too old. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. Naomi has been going through a lot of turmoil, so it'll be good to...
She deserves a better kid than he is at the moment.
You don't know. He might be great.
Oh, he's indoctrinated by his radical terrorist father.
That's not his fault.
No, but that's what he's like at the moment. He's a terrorist. I'm allowed to not like terrorists, but Ryan, even if they are children.
But it's called an arc.
Yeah,
we're going to have
and I'm at the start of the arc where I'm not meant to like him.
Oh, I think it's meant to be a shock. He's a kid who's bad. Ooh, I don't think they want you any further. I don't know how the show's
playing it, but that is not how I experienced it.
I think a really well done piece of business within this episode was the discussion of violence and how there are people,
and Ashford wants to be rid of the violence because the violence is too dangerous.
It's too dangerous, yeah. And we get people high up and low up talk about how they want to stop violence, but to do that they need to commit more violence or to commit more heinous acts towards one another. Christian, I want peace and love in the galaxy, mainly so that Mars will weaken and crumble and we can become the superpower in the universe without question. Mars is all, we're going to, demilitarize, but we're also going to fuel the war happening with the OPA by giving them a bunch of nasty weapons that they'll probably use against our foes at Earth or other belters. Even if they use it against us, it doesn't matter because Mars is dead. And then you get Ashford, who's all Mr. Kumbaya. I've turned a new leaf. Season 3 and 4 really changed me. I'm here to be a friendly guy. But also, we're torturing this Martian man to get the information. And the Martian man correctly calls out of, so you're all not for violence, but what about this? And flicks his tooth.
Yeah, well, he wasn't the belter that did that.
But he allowed it. That's the thing.
But he stopped it as soon as he knew that it was happening.
But also, it is torture. It's a thing in which
you're still holding him captive.
Yes, and
knowing that was a possibility. Maybe he wasn't meant to actually pull a tooth, but he was meant to threaten him. We don't know what parameters Ashford put in place.
But what's Ashford's mission? Ashford's doing all of this stuff.
He wants to find Marco and stop Marco.
Not stop. Kill Marco. So it's like what Drama was saying the last time, where it's like, one more will be. It's like, well, we need to kill this guy.
This is the only way to solve the problem of Marco is to kill him. But that's also plays into Ashford's sort of view of himself, that this is what the world needs moving forward, but I am a part of the old world.
And I'm going to leave a legacy for the future that's better than myself. But also to do that, I'm going to make the road paved with blood, even of people who deserve it. This is the opposite of Holden. Holden is Mr. We're going to hold you accountable. We're going to have civilization and we're going to demoralize you, thus making you useless. But if you kill Marco anyway, you make him a martyr. Because he's become this transcendent figure because of what's happened.
He's too well known now. If they'd killed him at the airlock when they had the chance, that would be very different. But especially after the run-in with Earth, he's too important. He's too well known.
I just think it's a really, fascinating thing for Ashford, because he says all of this stuff, but he's going to still enact it. He's still
acting in accordance to what he grew up with.
He wants to change. He wants to be better, but he's still going to perform this one last kill.
He wants the world to be better.
Yes, but it's still like, it's always just one more. Just one more.
This one's justified.
This one's justified. And although he talks a big game, and you can tell he feels it, in his bones, he feels like this is him trying to be better. He's still being the arbiter of life and death. This is I have to put him down. I have to be the executioner here because Marco believes in nothing. And he's just an animal that needs to be shot in the face. But the thing is, if he wasn't on the path to do the whole, actually, I'm not trying to be violent thing, if he was committed to one or the other, things would work out differently. Because once he's in the ship, he tries to take Marco in.
Yeah.
He backpedals, even though he's killed people up to this point to get to Marco. Once they're standing off to each other, he wings him, and then he does the whole little back and forth, you're coming with me, your days are numbered, instead of just shooting him right then and there with another shot. He wasn't doing the classic belter thing, in which is just bam, they're done, let's move on.
Yeah, which is why I'm okay. It felt very almost perfunctory, because as soon as Ashford set out on this quest, we were like, he's dead.
I thought it would last longer.
And then he's dumb. He's dead.
Well, I appreciate, I wouldn't say he was dumb. I would say, what I like about it is with him, it's rooted in the character of
he's flawed.
Yes,
that is more what I meant by he's dumb.
And I think it is satisfying.
Yeah.
I think this is a good conclusion. I liked it. I'm a fan.
That's fine.
Because although he's on this growth, he's in between and he's a bit of a flip-flopper here, and it costs him his life. Instead of just blowing up the ship even, or just shooting Marco in the fucking face and moving on, he gets cocky, he gets all up and moral, or he has a moment that leads to hesitation in which he is fucked. And I think that is a satisfying place to have him. And it gives Marco something more dangerous because Marco is unwavering in his determination to bring about destruction.
I genuinely felt sad watching him get jettisoned and die in the vacuum of space. It feels like it's been a really long time since we've had that, actually happen. But I don't know if we've seen it that intimately before.
It was calm. That's the thing about it. When Prax's friend died, we were up close and she was screaming and she was freezing and her jaw was like clenching all the time. And that was like horrific. But Ashford, he's serene and calm as he's dying because, one, he knew death was always an option and he's in acceptance of it. But he wins in his mind because he's recording Marco and is sending the message off. So and also he's coming back home to the child he lost. Like, hence he's singing this song, and we are in on his face as he is serene in this moment. He's not suffering. He's won in many different ways. Marco has just sealed his fate in a lot of ways when having killed Ashford. I like the little comment from Marco is like, man, I think I'm even going to miss you. Like there's this level of like, oh man, but also he's a fucking traitor. So, off you go, Ashford.
There's no debating, no voting on this one.
No, you don't get to have your civilization here. You get to be just left in space, forgotten, only remembered as a traitor to our people. I'm
gonna go hurl some asteroids at Earth now.
Hey, it's pretty neat.
It's a neat idea. It's a good accumulation of stuff that they've set up before in a new way.
Not just within this season, from the very beginning, the stealth technology. Yes. Christian was on the roof with her grandson in season 1 looking at the falling stars, and she even talked about the concerns of like falling rocks and how that could destroy us easily. Now that's going to come to pass, and Marco being this man who's working in the background, and his whole entire thing is we dream too small. We need to dream bigger. Oh, you think I'm going to attack our fellow belters on these easy to get little rocks in space? No, you idiot. No. What, you think I'm going to do like the Ganymede thing? No. Gotta dream bigger. He's going to aim for the biggest one of them all, Earth itself.
You still don't see it?
Don't see what?
Can't even imagine it. This has always been a problem for our kind. Even our dreams are small.
I will hold my breath a little because he is very much played as a supervillain.
Yeah.
With the looking at the thing and grinning and the music. He's played as
delighting in the chaos.
And that could go one way or the other, where it could be played really well or too cartoonishly. We'll have to wait and see. I also
have think trust it depends on how much time we spend with him.
Yes, and also what the aftermath of his plans are, because he'll probably succeed in them, or because Earth has skated by too many times.
It'll fuck up Earth in one way or another, but I suppose we should I'll leave that for our full predictions. Now, first, what do you rate the episode, Ryan?
I rated a yum.
Yeah.
I just didn't care too much about the episode itself entirely. Watching it through, it was passable. It made me smile. I enjoyed some exchanges. There was satisfaction to be had with where the pieces ended up, but as an actual thing to reflect upon, even talk about, and to think about in reference to the rest of the season as well as its own thing, it just falls short for me. I'm not passionate about this episode like the other 2 or 3 we've been watching, where I have not just a want to just talk about them, but even after talking about them, there's been elements or even whole things of that where I have carried on. But this, the most is, what is the next season going to do with this, rather than those more rather than those actual things that linger with you.
Yeah, I'm in a very similar position to you. This episode was fine. It's not good. So it's a yum from me too.
Yeah.
But I am interested to hear what the premiere of season 5 is called.
We usually read that off in the recap.
I don't get to yet. That's what I was about to say.
Oh, I thought you wanted me to tell you.
No, I don't get to know that yet. We will. Next episode will be our recap of season 4, and at the end of that, we will
make our predictions of the season and of the premiere.
Yes. So you don't want to do any predictions now?
We've done it throughout the episode.
So we're going to leave it there. You'll hear more of our overview at the end of the next episode.
Yes.
Thank you very much for listening, especially those Patreons who are listening to this earlier than everybody else.
Yumlings. I like that Rachel calls them Patreons and not patrons. You even list them on the Discord as our Patreons, which is an old school thing. If you people who are supporters of older Patreons, they will still sometimes refer to their patrons as Patreons, which I find hilarious.
Yeah.
But yes, thank you to the Yumlings, and to you, our regular listeners. Thank you all so much for listening along and tuning in. We hope that you like what we've said, and if you do or don't, you can feel free to talk to us on social media. We're on all of them under yumyumpod or yumyumpodcast. Make sure not to spoil anything. Make sure to zip those lips, but you can converse with us on those, or our email address, which is
yumyumpod@gmail.com.
Make sure to check out the description of this episode so you can have access to all of the things easily from that email, from the Patreon, from the other social media sites and podcasting sites. If you have not rated and reviewed the podcast or shared it about all over the place, please do so. It's helpful to us. It would be great for the podcast, and you won't regret it. You won't regret it. And if you don't do it, you'll live to regret it. And perhaps, if this podcast gains traction, we could have an interview with Havelock. Maybe the Gaunt Belter. We have had interviews with cast and crew from shows where we have covered, so you can help us if you share this around and tell people, hey, Havelock actor, you should check out this podcast. They're always talking about your character. And he said, who? Who's Havelock? I don't remember that guy. And then you try and remind him, and then he blocks you. That's been my interactions thus far, let me tell you. But Rachel, any wise words of wisdom to leave us on as we finish the quite polarizing 4th season of The Expanse?
Havelock sucks, and I'm glad that he didn't return.
This would have been the season he returned, though.
See you then. Well, voila.